Nightlights come in all shapes and sizes and can even brighten up the dullest of rooms. So today we are taking a little look at the Astronaut Starry Sky Projector. Now these cost around £20 to £30 to buy, and diving straight in with the packaging, well, I think it is okay. And then on the right hand side we have some product parameters. So the material that this thing is made of is ABS PC PVC, basically plastic. The colour of the item is white, obviously. The laser wavelength is 532. The LED power is nice and low at 5 watts. The control mode, remote control, and then remote control range is 5 meters, and that's at its best distance apparently. The wake input is 5 volts by 1 amp, and then the actual dimensions are 120 by 113 by 228 millimeters. On the other side, it does say that this thing is fully adjustable, and it has a timer or timing and a star. Let's get this thing open now and out the box. Okay, so it's nicely presented. Everything is wrapped. We're going to start off with the actual astronaut. Let's just move that to one side momentarily. And it feels like the head is loose. Right, so we don't need the bag, and we don't need this protective cover, which is nice. But there he is, that is the actual astronaut. So the head does come off, but it is actually held in place by some quite strong magnets, as you can see. But of course that allows for a lot of movement on whereabouts you want the astronaut to project these stars. In terms of the build quality though, it does seem quite cool. I mean, the head is really heavy and then the body is fairly lightweight, but it doesn't have a cheap feel to it. It still feels pretty premium. And then I do like the detail that's gone into the actual spacesuit itself. But one thing I do really like about the design is the way they have linked up the laser starlight to the battery pack, which in real life, this would obviously be a life support machine going up to the helmet. So yeah, they've done that quite well. They've obviously thought it through. And as you can clearly see, at the back is where the DC power supply goes. You've also got a little infrared sensor, and then you've got a star button, an on-off power button, as well as a nebula button there as well. Let's see what else we get in the box. So we have obviously the stand for the astronaut, and again, in terms of detail, you can see it's not just a plain stand. They've made it into some sort of lunar base, but this is just plastic or resin, and yeah, it does feel pretty solid. We also have a USB power cable, a remote control, and let me just open this up and show you this. Yep, okay, well, there's no batteries in it, I can tell you that from the weight, but we do have a basic remote with an on-off power switch, timer button. Looks like you can adjust some of the settings there via the remote, but yeah, it's a handy little thing to have. And finally, we come to the instruction manual, which does appear to be in a different language. No, tell a lie, it is also in English, but there's that. But as there's nothing else in the box, that means we can get rid of it. And I'll just go through a few of the additional features and specs that this little guy has on offer. So for example, he has an optional cut-off timer function of either 45 minutes or 90 minutes. There's also 8 light/colour effects for the nebula. The nebula also has 4 levels of speed. And then overall, the stars and the nebula both have 4 levels of brightness. And finally, the bulb, well, that consists of a class 1 laser for the stars and then LEDs for the nebula. And with the unboxing done, I think we should now set this little chap up and see how he does. Right then, so here we are all set up and ready to go, and I'm actually going to run through 2 demonstrations with you. The first one in this room, which measures 10 feet by 12 feet, and then I'll obviously show you the settings or features in action before finally moving on to a slightly bigger room so you can see how it looks there as well. But now, without further ado, let's switch off the lights. And well, what can I say? You can see it for yourself that the room is pretty much engulfed in the green stars as well as the nebula, creating a phenomenal calming effect. Now, I do just want to clarify that the stars being projected are not any sort of star constellation. They are just pretty much random dots of green laser lights. So if you were planning to use this as a learning device to show the stars or constellations in action, then I'm afraid for that job I would not recommend this device. But you have to admit, from the overall look that this simple light is providing, it looks very awesome. It's not only calming, but it's soothing, relaxing, and of course it is ideal for maybe a nightlight or even a sleep aid. Or if you are thinking of using one of these in a sensory room, for example, then yes, it would be ideal because it just provides a peaceful mood of positivity wherever you are using this projector as a light source. I also wanted to show you this shot as well because although all I've done is just reposition the astronaut so he is now shining against the wall, none of the effect is lost. In fact, I would say in this particular example it looks even better. Now of course this will depend on the size of the room and where you have the light situated, but I'm pretty positive that not only will this device make a huge difference to its environment, but also a beneficial change to your mood. Now it's time to show you what features are on offer. So we'll begin with what happens when you turn this thing on, which is basically the nebula cycling through various colours, as well as the stars fading on and off intermittently. And this happens every time you turn it on. It doesn't remember your settings, I'm afraid, or anything like that. It just simply resets. But luckily, it only takes a few seconds to readjust to your preferred ambient mood. So let me show you this in action. First of all, we have the stars, and here they are on the brightest setting, but we can turn them down once, and then once more, before finally pressing and holding the star button on the remote, which will turn them off completely and leave you with just the nebula. And speaking of the nebula, I'm now going to show you the speed settings. So here it is static or still if you wish, and then we can increase the speed, but it's still quite slow here. So then we can go a bit faster before finally ultra fast, which gives it almost this roaring fire-like effect. But what about the colours, I hear you ask? Well, to start off, we have the colours fading from one colour to another. Then if we press the remote, we can have a pink/bluish red. Then we move to dark green. We now have a wonderful lush red. Then a deep looking blue. Then this is almost a red and green. We now have pink and blue. Blue and green. And then finally back to cycling through the colours. Moving on to the brightness settings now with the nebula, and here it is on its lowest setting. So now I can make it a bit brighter, and then a bit brighter still, and then of course once more, and then finally we hit its brightest, and yes, just to let you know, it really is bright. But of course, if you're not in the mood for any of the nebulas on offering, then you can quite simply just be encircled by an enrichment of green stars. But the best thing with this projector is the amount of options you have to play around with in terms of setting the apt lighting to suit your mood. You can have the stars on, off, the nebula moving or static, different colours, and of course the whole effect from various positions if you move the astronaut around. So whatever you do decide to use this projector for, as well as the settings you decide to have, as you can see, it seriously does have a lot of choice on offer for such a simple and small device. If, however, you are struggling with blocking out all the light in the room where you have the projector set up, well, here is an example of how things will look with the light on. Now, this is only a 60-watt bulb, but the starlight still wins the battle as it can still be seen quite clearly. Now, of course, you do still lose a lot of the effect, but generally it still works. As for daylight though, well, it is a different story because the projector is quite literally overpowered in terms of attempting to provide a light source. Yes, it can just about be seen or noticed if you look closely, but my advice is to just do whatever you can and keep the room where you have the astronaut starlight projector set up as dark as you possibly can. This next demonstration, I just wanted to show you how the projector does when it is in a slightly larger environment. Now, this room measures 14 feet by 12 feet, so it's not that much bigger, but there is a significant difference. Now, unfortunately, I can't film in this room at night time because everyone's asleep, so I've closed the blackout curtains. There is still some daylight seeping through, as you can see, but the projector still does a very good job. And the thing I wanted to really point out is just look how much of the room is filled with not only the nebula, but mainly the stars. Now, of course, this will depend on the size of your room, but overall, I don't think you should have any trouble. As long as you can get rid of any daylight or any light at all for that matter, then the projector will work well, and you can just have a lot of fun with it, setting the scene, setting the mood, and just having some relaxation. And there we go. That was the Astronaut Spaceman Starlight Projector in action. And I have to admit, I am pleasantly surprised with just how much I like it. By this, I mean, and I am being brutally honest here, from the outset, I really wasn't expecting that much from this Astronaut projector. However, now that I've tried it out, I've played around with it, plus my son has decided to take over it and use it as his nightlight every single night, it really does perform remarkably well. The aim of this device is to project stars, to project a nebula, and that is exactly what it does. Plus, combined with the free-flowing movement of the helmet, that also allows you to project the stars and the nebula almost wherever you want. It's easy to set up and it's easy to use. Plus, you do have the options of the various colours as well as various speeds that the light projector can offer. However, with all these positives, I'm afraid there are some negatives as well, or at least some improvements that could be made. To start off with, we have the cable. Now, although it is a fairly good length at 1 meter, it is a shame that one end of the connector is a DC port and not just a standard micro USB connector, because if this goes missing or gets broken, it's going to be a lot more hassle to replace. Whereas with a micro USB connector, pretty much everyone has them in every household. And finally, well, in regards to the cable, although it is great that this is a simple plug in and play USB device, not everyone has a USB socket next to their bed or even nearby. So if the Spaceman Astronaut projector came with a simple, cheap and cheerful plug adapter, it would just provide that peace of mind for anyone buying it. And last but not least, in terms of being critical, well, we arrive at the little spaceman himself. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to be too harsh, but there are two things I would like to warn you about. And the first one is that it is bright. In fact, you'll be surprised just how bright it is. Now, yes, this could be seen as a positive. However, the way we've been using this is as a nightlight, as well as a light for a small space for someone to get some calm. And because of this, every time we switch it on, we do have to adjust the brightness and just tone it down a level. Now, don't get me wrong, I do understand that the point of the laser is to cover a large area of your choice with a wonderful, relaxing, green starfield effect. And yes, it does do that very well. But I just wanted to warn you, because being blasted in the eye with a ball of green light does get very annoying very quickly. So make sure you have an adequate space to use this thing if you are thinking of getting one. Having said all that, however, with the criticisms as well, would I still recommend this product? Well, yes, I most definitely would. I think it's an excellent device to have, and it provides a fantastic light show experience, whether you want to use this as a nightlight or maybe in a sensory room. It's simple to set up, plus you have the remote control as well for that extra peace of mind, just in case you set up this astronaut in a high or hard to reach area. And if you can play some music from an additional device to go alongside this astronaut, then you'll be amazed as well as mesmerised just how good the Starfield as well as Nebula light show can be, all in the comfort of your own home. Now, before I go, if you are interested in checking out the Astronaut Starry Sky Projector, then I will leave some links in the description box beneath this video. But also, please do let me know your thoughts. Do you think this item is any good? Would you buy one, or maybe you've got one and would you recommend it? Please do let me know in the comment section below. And not forgetting, if you enjoyed this video and you like tech and gadgets, then please show your support to the channel by subscribing. It's totally free to do, and just make sure you click on that notification bell icon as well. But until next time, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all at some point very soon. Thank you.